Welcome back, everyone, to Anonymous Addiction Deprogramming Podcast. I'll be your host, of course, Bobby C. here. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook at Anonymous Addiction, My Truth About AA, as Bobby C. sees it, private group. And please like if you like it. I don't even think they do unlike anymore, but like it, press the button, and subscribe. We really appreciate new subscribers so you can pass the word. Synchronicity. Adam, I don't know which way I point, but I point this way or this way. I don't know which way it
Yeah,
goes.
you got it.
Which way? This way? No,
The other way.
this way. Okay, I'm pointing to Adam. We hooked up. Adam's going to tell you how he found me and how we hooked up, and how the attention, the energy, Adam put his attention. He wanted something. He's seen it. He put his effort into it, his care into it, and made it happen. And we got together. Adam, introduce yourself to the audience.
Hey guys, my name is Adam Tripp. I'm the co-founder of Mantra Recovery, and like you were saying, my buddy Brett, who does the Recovery Survey podcast, we were a guest on his show a few months back, and he knows where I stand with recovery and my views on AA and whatnot, and Bobby, you had made some post on Instagram, and Brett tagged me in it and said, "Man, I think this is up your alley," and reached out to you, and here I am. Yeah,
that's the way we connect. That's the way we connect, ladies and gentlemen. It just happens because we're seeking, we're searching, and we're searching for new alternative methods. We're searching for new ideas. We're open-minded. We're really open-minded. Okay, when they say honest, open-minded, and willingness. This is about real open mind, where I don't have to agree. I don't have to agree when I have a guest, I don't have to agree on everything. Okay. But I have an open mind to listen, and that's a key. That's very important for me. And I learn because when I go out in the world, especially in alternative recovery methods, models, modalities, programs or whatever, I find and learn new types of things that help people in all kinds of mental health issues. So tell us a little bit about what the heck your childhood. Bring us from your childhood up to today.
all right, man. I'll give you a quick synopsis. So I'm born and raised in Dallas, Texas. Born in 1980. And both of my parents were drug addicts. My dad being the main one because my mom wised up. She got out early. She just got tired of living that lifestyle, I guess. And I guess it's different for women that have children. Sometimes they're able to just put it down for the kids. I think my mom was one of those examples. My dad, not so much. So my dad was a heroin, cocaine addict, and like a low to mid-level drug dealer, basically to support his own habit, right? So I bounced around from, mom to dad to parents, and, just had mainly my grandparents raised me the majority of my childhood life. So I think I first got high when I was 11 years old. Started with marijuana, LSD, some pills like Valium, stuff like that. At that point, I was living with my mother and her husband. And I think I made it probably not even a whole year doing that till they were just like, this is too much. We can't handle this shit, right? So long story short, I end up moving in with my father, which it's like I knew what he did, but he didn't just broadcast it like, oh yeah, this is what I do. But I mean, I was raised around that shit, like him, being knotted out in the house or just doing little drug deals, meeting people at the convenience store. And you know what I mean? It's just that whole, drug dealer, drug addict lifestyle. So when she put me out, and I went to him, I almost wore it like a badge of honor, talking to him. It's like, oh yeah, I was smoking weed, I was doing this, I was doing that. And, mom's kind of tripping and, that's what's going on with me. So my dad was of the mind that I'd rather have you doing it here with me where I know you're safe than out there getting high running the streets, right? Which uh, all I heard really was like, oh, cool, I get to like get high, right? Like with my dad, this is fucking awesome, right? And looking back on it, that's super dysfunctional and fucked up. But it's like I've been in the treatment industry for 9 years, and it's actually a pretty common story, Um, so yeah, man, I mean, we started, smoking weed, doing LSD, things like that. But my dad was a heroin addict, um, it didn't take long for me to be turned on to heroin at 12 years old with my father.
Mm.
So I, first time I ever did it, I shot it up. First time I ever tried cocaine, I shot it up. I was completely strung out on heroin in middle school. This is the early 90s. And it just went on like that for a while. I had a little stint in rehab, court ordered. I had a little shoplifting charge, and it's in like 94, 95. I got court ordered to do a year in a residential treatment program.
What age was that?
I was 14.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I go to this program, man, and it's an adolescent program. And, back then, man, kids my age really, at least in Dallas, were not using the hard drugs to the level that I was. At least not the ones that I was in treatment with, right? So, I mean, they're in there because their parents caught them smoking weed or whatever. I'm fucking shooting heroin and smoking crack and, just being a complete junkie. So I did a whole year there, man, in a little town called Marshall, Texas. It's close to Louisiana. It's in the middle of nowhere, man. And that was my first exposure to AA, right? This is a little like podunk town, man. Just lots of land and farmers and, like old school AA, like the kind of shit where if you identify yourself as a drug addict, they're going to be like, hey, this isn't NA. You know what I mean? Like those are outside issues and all that kind of shit, right? And I was not an alcoholic, man. I mean, the first thing I did was drugs, so like alcohol was just something that I really, I just never had the taste for it. I didn't like the effect. I would rather take a handful of Xanax or something and get the same effect. So I didn't identify, right? But I was in that meeting. Really, I only went to the meeting because we got to go off property. I could pick up cigarette butts in the parking lot, and I could drink coffee. Which is a
Right.
big deal when you're in treatment.
Now, how long were you in the adolescent treatment?
For a year.
Wow.
Yeah, I was in there a year, man, and in that little.
Now, was it? Let me ask you this: was the treatment center was it an indoctrination 12-step? Was it complete abstinent 12-step based or no?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it 12-step based. It was an adolescent facility, so they had a heavy focus on like therapy,
Cognitive behavioral therapy, some dialectic therapy.
yeah, stuff like that, man.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like some high class facility, so you didn't have just like top notch therapists. You know what I mean? It was more like a lot of group therapy. I mean, we're all kids, so we're going to school in there. And
But they didn't take you to NA. They didn't drive you to NA meetings, AA meetings, none of that.
I don't think there was an NA group out there, man. There was AA, and I think there was one. This is a really small town. So yeah, man, but I did the whole year there, and I remember going to that meeting, and we only went to that meeting on the weekends, right? But that's my first exposure to 12-step fellowship program, whatever. And I went ahead and got my chips. So I got the sobriety coins up until I think 9 months in that group. Of course, I get out, man, and I'm fucking like 15 when I get out. And there was so much, there was drugs I still hadn't done yet. Not a lot of them, but, there was fun to be had, for me. So, I mean, I got high immediately. I don't even want to say relapse because I was never, sold on any kind of recovery. So I start getting high immediately. I go back to my mom's house. Same story. I'm getting high. She puts me out, right? I go right back to my father. And that's when like the real, like grimy, heroin addiction, that it really set in at that point. Um, I remember I was waiting to turn 17 years old so that I could get on the state funded methadone program
Oh yeah.
because you have to be 17 to get on that. So I did that, man. And,
Legal. What's that? Legalized heroin, right?
pretty much, man. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hey, it was free drugs. And, if I didn't have dope one day, I didn't really have to worry about being sick. As long as I have my methadone. And I was on that for pretty much 10 years,
Wow.
and I got up to a really high dose. So, yeah, also when I turned 17, in Texas, that's when you're old enough to go to the county jail, no more juvenile. So I start picking up criminal charges. I'm in and out of jail, man. And, me and my dad would start getting into it because I would steal his dope when he's
Wow.
nodded out and just crazy dysfunctional stuff, right? So, he starts kicking me out of the house. I had to be homeless a few times. I mean, I was a hardcore junkie. Nobody could trust me, and they shouldn't have trusted me because I'd fucking rob you blind. So no real friends. You know what I mean? Just out there, man, really bad. Um, there's a treatment center in Dallas called Homeward Bound. It's a state funded treatment center, and they offer detox, right? So when you're using opiates, it's you want to go somewhere. If you're going to be sick, you want to go somewhere that's going to give you medication, right, to ease your withdrawal symptoms. And I found out about this place in the late 90s. So when it would get bad enough and I would be too sick to rob somebody or steal or whatever the case may be, or I just burned all my bridges, I would go to this Homeward Bound place because they would take me in, they would give me medication and kind of get me leveled out, but they would only keep me like a week tops. And then, I'm right back out there where I started. And then, of course, I just would get back on dope again. It wasn't until 2013, there's a prison stint in there. I've got 5 felonies, man, and just lived a really hard life, man.
Let me
Like
let me
all the
let me let me stop you. Just pause you right there to tell the
right,
audience. Adam's given his kind of like, in AA, they call it war stories, but I asked Adam to share this, okay, because we're leading into deprogramming from AA, okay? So
yeah,
Adam's story is going to go on, but we're going to get into how he deprogrammed and how he got sucked in and indoctrinated in AA. So stay tuned, okay? Continue, Adam.
okay, yeah, and I'm right there. So 2013, I have my fourth and fifth felony charges, hanging over my head. I'm out on some bonds, and one thing led to another. I ended up going back to a treatment center, right? And it was not because I felt like I was at rock bottom. I wasn't like I can't do this anymore. I got to get sober. It was nothing like that. I just had these charges, and I didn't want to go back to prison. And at that point, I was sleeping on the floor of a dope house, and I'm shooting dope every day, you know. So
Okay.
I figured, let me get somewhere where I can kind of clean up and try to avoid prison, right? So I go to a treatment center. It's a 30-day program. I'm how old am I? I was 33. So my exposure to AA and the 12 steps was minimal at that point. I was never the type of person that wanted to be sober, so I damn sure never sought out any meetings or any of that kind of shit. So I'm in this treatment center, man, and you've got all these groups coming in doing what they call H&I, which is hospitals and institutions, right, where they bring meetings to these facilities and they talk about steps 1, 2, and 3 and just all this shit, right? And I guess it's in the hope of them, being able to sponsor a guy and take him through the steps. So most of the people that I saw, and we had a lot of them that came through pretty much every day.
Now, but the treatment center did not take you to meetings.
They took us to some outside meetings,
Okay,
but
so they
most
so
of it,
so
most of it was
the
private.
treatment center was kind of like 12-step based in
Yeah,
a sense. They believed in the abstinent model, and they believed
absolutely.
in the 12 steps. So they allowed Alcoholics Anonymous to come in because they knew after they took all your money, after the insurance paid for everything, and and they're going to send you somewhere for free, and that's where the cure is going to be. Okay, that's the whole treatment industry. So continue, Adam. Yeah, that's great. Great. Keep on.
Yeah, yeah, more or less that's the deal. So okay, so these groups are coming in and they're like, if you want what we have and you're willing to go to any links. And most of those people, I'm like, I don't fucking want what you have. You guys are lame. And you know what I mean? I was very resistant to that whole, idea. And they came off like evangelist Christians to me. You know what I mean? That was just the vibe that I got from them. Because it's like, oh, thanks to my higher power, I've been sober for 8 years, 6 months, and 30, some odd days and 10 hours or whatever. It just seemed miserable, right? But there were the majority of the people I was in treatment with had sponsors and they were working these steps, right? So like we'd be in group, the counselors would be talking about making a relapse prevention plan or whatever. And you look around and people are like writing 4 steps and shit, right? I had never done anything like that. So I'm halfway into my stay and a guy, a group came in. It was Cocaine Anonymous, which is AA, but it's just
CA, yeah.
Yeah, they use the AA book and the steps, right? So this guy came in, man, and honestly, he was the first guy that I had heard that was not regurgitating the same bullshit. He wasn't saying, "Oh, you just need a home group and blah blah blah," and he wasn't just like quoting this book, right? It didn't seem so contrived, right? So I thought, okay, if I'm going to do this and I'm going to ask one of these guys to help me, I would ask this guy, and it just seemed like the right move. So I did. And, the guy was super cool, man. And I want to say this, I got to put this out there because I did the program, right? And I mean, I think everything happens for a reason and everything happens just as it should, so it definitely gave me the foundation, that I was able to build to get to where I am today. Okay. I do want to put that out there. But I sat with that guy and in about 15 minutes, we went through the first 3 steps, and he's like, okay, this is why you write a 4-step. This is how you write a 4-step. Pretty much just go do this, right? So I did it. I got out of that treatment center. I went to a sober living home
How
called
long
an
were how long were you in that treatment center? 30 days,
30 days.
90 days? How
30
long?
days.
30
30 days.
days. 30 days, and then you went to a sober living. That's the circle. Yeah.
Yeah.
My next podcast is going to be all about kind of like that. Okay, go ahead, continue. Yeah. So you went to the
Yes.
sober living after that.
So I went to an Oxford house, and I ended up staying there for 15 months total.
Now,
But
Oxford House, that's connected almost to the Catholic Church, isn't it? Kind of like Oxford House is that part of, or is that AA's
no,
kind of, they just called it Oxford House because of the Oxford group,
because
right?
of the Oxford group and
Right.
all that kind of stuff,
Okay.
it's very based in AA.
It's like an AA house, it's like a 12-step home. It's like an AA indoctrinated center, which you went to.
Yeah, yeah. It is. It is. I mean, they required you to have a sponsor. They required you to make a certain amount of 12-step meetings a week. Yeah, yeah. So it's very, very AA. So I get to this house and, I finish my steps, man. I finish the 4-step. I do my 5th step where I read the shit to the guy. I do 6 and 7. I do my little hour and everything he tells me to do. I make my list of people I fucked over and I go out and I try to make these amends to these people. And then I started sponsoring guys, right? And he's got me praying every day and doing all the stuff. I actually founded a 12-step fellowship. I founded Opiates Anonymous. And, because I started going to a group that was Heroin Anonymous locally in Dallas, and I fucking hated it. I hated meetings the whole time through and through. But because I'm trying to live this life and not, do Adam's way, right? I'm thinking, okay, I need to listen to people that I think know more than me, and try to get out of my own way, right? So I'm trying to be honest, and they're like, you got to make 2 12-step meetings a week. I mean, shit, the old me would be like, well, it's anonymous. I'll just be like, I went to fucking A, B, and C group. Tell me I wasn't there, but I didn't. So I'm going to these meetings and I fucking hated it, man. So I'm like, if I have to go to meetings, I'm going to start my own fucking meeting. It's just the kind of person that I am. And that's what I did. So I founded the Outside Issues group of Opiates Anonymous, right? And man, I was really involved, doing a lot of H&Is myself, going to the detox centers and just telling people my story. I was never a big book thumper. I was never, I was just more about just helping other fucking people. So I did that, man. And, I did that for a few years. And I slowly but surely distanced myself, from the whole deal. When I was in it, I discovered the whole back to basics movement, right? Where it's like get back to the essence of AA, the program, and all that kind of shit. It's not about the meetings, it's about working these steps and doing all this stuff. So I adopted that mindset, pretty early on. And then that's what really got me, on my soapbox about like, fuck these meetings, and the fellowship supports the program, but you don't need the fellowship. And I started pissing people off pretty early on, like old timers, that are just like dependent on being in these fucking meetings for their sobriety, which I just have always hated, man. But man, it wasn't until maybe a few years ago that I was able to fully like take myself away, from the fellowship, AA, CA, whatever A.
Didn't you go to some NA in the beginning?
I went to a few, I tried it.
But
And
here's my point. So you go into NA, you really didn't like NA, right?
no,
Okay, so you go to NA, now you got to come to AA and actually lie because you're not an alcoholic. Okay.
right.
So they make you lie. All right. So you're living a lie. We're living it. Look, I was in there for 30 years. So I'm a hypocrite. But I can relate to your story so much because you know what? You were transitioning out. You were slowly, like, you were indoctrinated, and then you had these epiphanies. You kind of had, nah, this doesn't feel right. It doesn't resonate. What the hell am I doing? Plus,
Right.
plus you went in because the fire was under your ass. You didn't want to go back to prison, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
all along, something's clicking. Something's clicking. So like the statement you made earlier that I have to give some credit to that. Actually, I give credit to you. See, I don't give credit to their pointers. It was a point or two away, but you're on a journey, right?
Right.
So I can relate to that because you're transitioned out. You became
Yeah.
aware of certain things. This did spark, doing the steps and all that. This gives you some spark, okay,
Yeah.
to move on and seek more. And then you finally said to yourself, this is bullshit. First of all, you were like me, you were rebellious,
Yeah.
okay, and that's a good thing. I found out being rebellious is a good thing. They,
Yeah.
they would tell you they had a name for everything you did. They had a reason why you were doing it. Okay, first of all, you're rebellious. Second of all, you're a bleeding deacon. You're not an elder statesman, right? You're a bleeding deacon. You got to do it your way. And this is what I found out. You know what, Adam? We're all doing it our way, no matter what. Every person, I found out there's a common thread through every program in the world, and it's our way anyhow. Okay.
Yeah.
We are the creators of our destiny. So continue on. You just said to yourself, bullshit, I'm out of here. And that's only about 3 years ago, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, The program, man, is heavily, there's a lot of like shame based shit, and a lot of fear, right? Because when you're a part of the fellowship, it's like if you don't do A, B, and C, essentially you're gonna fucking die, right? Like if you don't go sponsor 1,000 people, if you don't go to this meeting, if you don't do, whatever, you're gonna relapse, right? And to relapse is to die, right? So, when that's drilled into your head, you believe it, whether you believe it or not, you worry like that, could that be true? They say I have this allergy, right? And like if I put something in my body, it's going to manifest itself in this phenomenon of craving and all this shit, right?
Yeah, we got one doctor's opinion.
Yeah.
One doctor 86 years ago, Silkworth, and we're going to listen to one doctor, 164 pages. That's all the book is, 164 pages. The rest are stories. And they're going to tell us, they're going to give us steps 1 to 12. We're going to go through them when somebody might go to therapy for 5 years and still not uncover nothing. Okay. Yeah. But AA is going to get you through real quick. Matter of fact, in rehab, they're going to do 1, 2, and 3. And always remember that God could and would if he were sought. Okay. When they say A, B, and C, 3 pertinent ideas. We got 10 minutes left, and we got plenty of time. 10 minutes is a long time. Okay, let's continue. Let's continue on. 3 years ago, you kind of said, screw this.
Yeah. So,
and that was cool. And that was really cool that you started that opiate. And the only thing that I would have said to you if I knew you back then, I would have said, don't call it 12, don't do no 12 steps, just do your own thing, create your own thing, something different. Okay. And you still can. Okay. So
yeah, well, and and that's what that could bring us to mantra recovery, right? I started working in the treatment industry 9 years ago, so I was only a year sober, and my first job was managing like a high-end sober living house. Funny enough, I ended up working for the very treatment center that I got sober at.
Okay, let me stop you. Was it a 12-step kind of abstinent based 12-step?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what we're seeing. 98% of the treatment centers, 95. Quote me if I'm wrong. Somebody give me a comment or let us know. But I bet you about 98% of the treatment centers, California, where I'm at, is Mecca. Florida, where my buddy is over there in Florida, Rainy, Mecca. Okay. So treatment centers over and over and over. And my next podcast, because I just got certified and I was working at a treatment center just to do an investigation, and it's still going on no matter what, so continue.
Yeah, and most treatment centers, they are rooted in 12-step, and that's probably the biggest component of their program. So yeah, I worked in the industry, man. I've done every role imaginable: case manager, facility director, I mean, whatever, right? I saw firsthand how corrupt a lot of these programs are, and I've done nonprofit, I've done for-profit. I mean, shit, I was a counselor at the Salvation Army Adult Rehabilitation Center, so I've done all aspects.
I was going to mention Salvation Army when you were saying all that shit.
Yeah, man, I was a counselor there, but
we're gonna have to do another podcast. You're gonna have to do another podcast with me about the recovery treatment trap that I do podcasts about. The addiction recovery trap. Okay, which is 12-step circle jerk, whatever. So continue. Yeah, you've been around.
Yeah, so I saw firsthand, man, and I really, I like to consider myself a compassionate person, man, and I like helping people, and I just saw a lot of lost people that were just being fucked over, and they were viewed as insurance policies, and if their deductible's been met or not, it's going to determine if they get help or not or whatever.
Yeah, being a case management, you got to do all that. You got to help the people through the system. So you're right on with that.
Yeah. So anyway, man, long story short, I saw a lot of the corruption. So just a little over a year ago, my partner and I founded Mantra Recovery. We wanted to do something that was not 12-step based, something that gave a shit about the people, And I mean, you know, we're a cash pay business, but at the end of the day, if somebody can't afford to pay us, we still help them. It doesn't matter. You know, we'll scholarship somebody. It doesn't matter. We're going to help whoever. Um, you know, so we do interventions. We do wellness coaching, which is like a mashup of recovery coaching and life coaching. We do some safe transport. So, you know, we'll pick people up from treatment, take them home, whatever. And then pretty recently, here in the past year, we've gotten into psychedelics in recovery. You know,
Entheogenics. How do you say it? Entheogenic?
entheogenics.
Entheogenic integration.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think, you know what? Because we only have about 5.5 minutes left, we're going to continue on. I want you to keep on talking about that because I think we should do a part two, me and you, so you could go into the psychedelic and the ketamine and all that stuff that we talked about.
Yeah.
So a year ago, you hooked up with a CJ Dana.
Yeah, it was CJ Sias. You know, he's a good friend of mine. And yeah, he's like-minded, you know, and yeah, we just came together, man, and we were like, you know, we feel like we can do better. And I think Dallas and really just the world in general, you know, needs a company that you know is thinks outside the box. And you know, we don't conform to anybody because I don't give a shit. You know, I give a shit about the people that need help, that want help, and whatever that looks like for the individual, that's what we do. You know, I mean, if they want to be plugged in with some 12-step shit, we're going to plug them in with that. But if they want to have shit to do with it, which I'm finding a lot of them don't, um, then that's really where I shine, you know, and I'm able to plug them in with alternatives. I mean, you know, I'm into like Dharma recovery, smart recovery, moderation management. I mean, we
Harm
support safe
reduction.
harm reduction, safe drug use, you know,
Yeah, we're all about that here too. Yeah,
with,
entheogenic. Okay,
yeah,
because we're going to get into that because the next podcast. Do you mind if we talked about the Zoloft and the
yeah,
next podcast? We're going to talk about. Stay tuned
absolutely.
for. I'll tell you what. Stay tuned. We got another couple minutes here, but stay tuned for part two because we're going to get into. Adam's going to share about a big deep stuff about 9 years on Zoloft and how he got off it, and the ketamine treatment, and the ketamine therapy, and we're going to go into the
Yeah,
entheogenics. Here it is. It's a psychoactive hallucinogenics substance or preparation, such as psilocybin or ayahuasca, even DMT, or I guess you could, mescaline or
yeah,
any type of hallucinogen,
yeah.
especially when derived from the plants or fungi and used in religious, spiritual, or ritual content. We're going to be talking a lot about all the different types of methods.
Yeah.
What do we got? 3 minutes left. Go ahead. Share some more about where you guys are at right now.
Yeah, man. I mean, so we're really leading the way in Dallas, Texas, at least with the whole psychedelic, you know, psychedelics as a form of therapy and recovery, because we're seeing it help a lot of people, man. And like you said, we'll do another episode, but I personally have the lived experience of getting off of an
Yeah, we'll
SSR.
save that. Yeah, we'll save
Yeah,
that for the next podcast because we could,
yeah,
because that's a biggie. Because
yeah,
that's the whole thing. That's why Adam's doing this because he transitioned. Now let me ask you this question. You personally, now it doesn't matter. Like me personally, I believe in an alcohol, drug-free lifestyle. That's what I choose, and I believe the power of choice. I believe in the freedom and the power of choice. I choose
yeah,
certain things because I believe it's a lifestyle. I believe it's best for me, and it's the easier, softer way. And I don't like to use that in Alcoholics Anonymous terms. But what do you drink now? Do you moderate? Are you a moderate drinker?
yeah.
Okay.
No,
Do you use any
I
other type of substance besides once in a while some microdosing or
no. No.
No.
I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke cannabis. I don't use any narcotics. Um, you know, no. I choose not to.
Right.
Uh, my history has shown me that I will destroy my life and everything that's that I hold dear to me.
Yeah, and some people, there's a model that they don't believe in that. I believe in it, but here's what I believe. Look, if I had a habit before, say me and you had a problematic habit, it caused problems. So did I. So I had a problematic habit. I had a habit. So there's a possibility that I can start another habit.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just human nature. I don't want to do that. I don't want to take the chance. We got 1 minute left. Take us out for a whole minute. Take us out for that minute because we're going to do part two probably pretty soon. Maybe tomorrow or the next day. We're going to get into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just appreciate you having me on and whoever's watching, man. I appreciate you. And you can check us out at mantrarecovery.com and stay tuned for part two. And we'll get into the psychedelics and whatever else you want to hear about.
Yeah. And Adam, I appreciate you being here. I really do. Don't forget to subscribe. Please subscribe. The more